The sun's down, the soldering iron's hot, and you know what that means. Welcome to night school, where the zip ties are tight, the code's questionable, and the LEDs never sleep. Hosted by the one and only Bobby, the professor of pixel mayhem, we are diving deep into lighting tips, tech fails, sketchy workarounds, and the secrets nobody teaches until now. Whether you're mapping props at midnight or just here for the chaos, this is your crash course in RGB enlightenment. So grab your beverage of choice and remember, there's no syllabus, no rules, and no guarantee we'll make it out with all our fingers. This is Night School.
Hey everybody, welcome to Night School. Today I have Michael Stoffregen from Showstopper Sequences. He is the master of submodels, and he's going to show us today how to submodel some incredible spinners.
Thank you, Bobby. How you been?
Good, yourself?
Not bad, not bad. Got the summer doldrums here in Missouri. 95 degrees every day, every day. It's ridiculous. It was 10 degrees hotter here than it was in South Carolina this past weekend. So,
is that with humidity or without?
Oh no, 88% humidity at least.
Oh, okay.
Missouri's like a swamp.
Ooh.
Yeah. You sweat tying your shoes here. It's bad. That's probably a little indictment of my physical conditioning too. But you know what I'm saying. It's bad. Well, anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about submodeling. One of the biggest questions I get time and time again is, I've got this prop here, and it feels like I don't have anything to map stuff to. And so this summer, one of the things I've been working on is taking some of those props and developing some submodels for them where people can load those submodels and use them if they want to. Obviously, it's nothing that they have to, but it's nice to have options, and that's what I'm trying to do for people is kind of give them an option for props that maybe don't have the same types of submodels or the number of submodels that you need to do some effective mapping. So tonight, I thought what I'd do is share with everyone a way that they can go in and regardless of what props they're using, they can create their own submodels and give themselves some options. All right, so that's what we're going to be covering when we get started here in a second. All right, so I am going to share my screen with X-Lights. And what I've done, I'm going to get to my layout here. And what I've done is I have loaded up, the first one here is Showstopper Spinner. This one, next one in the middle here, is the GE Grand Illusion. And the third one here is the Biscoyo PPD Mesmerizer. All of them spinners, all of them real popular in the hobby. So what I'm going to show you how to do is take maybe some of the submodels, the source here that we're going to use, and create those as best we can on these props that look very different. All right, so that's kind of the goal, and I'll walk you through the process as we go through it. All right, so I'm using the Showstopper Spinner, obviously, because that's something I'm very familiar with. And it has lots of submodels for us to mimic. Now I'm in the layout tab here in X-Lights, and I've selected the Showstopper Spinner. And if I come down here to the submodels, and I'm going to click on that, and it will call up the submodel screen. And you can see in that dialog screen all the submodels over there, and I've got them listed in this individual prop. I've got a total of, let me see where I'm at right now, 83 submodels that are in there, and I have them numbered. And I also have them divided by which section of the prop they affect. Like I've got the whole spinner as one, and then I've got down here the outer, and then I've got the middle right there, and then I've got center. And so that's how I just have everything kind of divided up, so you know which region, which portion of the prop that those submodels underneath it there are going to affect it. All right, so that's going to be our source, more or less. And let me get out of that and go over here. And then what we're going to do, now I just went and downloaded these models just from the X-Lights download. And so if you go to the submodels, it'll have the submodels that come with, you see it there, the submodels that come with that prop. When you download it, they're all listed there. Same with the mesmerizer. Go into the submodels there and we'll see those. And you'll see that they have their submodels as well. Now, the GE prop and the PPD prop are set up to create groups outside of the prop itself to sequence to. The showstopper spinner is set up a little different. I've got mine set up so that you can actually sequence to the submodel directly in the prop, and you don't have to create separate groups. Now that creates an issue for people who have multiples of the spinner, and we'll talk about that when we get towards the end, some ways to address that. But the reason why the spinner relies on using the submodels in the prop itself rather than exterior groups is because, you know, if you had to create 70 submodels or 70 groups just to be able to sequence, or 80 some actually, to be able to sequence to this prop, it's going to make your sequencing area very, very large, very, very difficult, very awkward to get around in. And I didn't think it was appropriate to do it that way. There, you know, it doesn't hurt to sequence at the submodel level, and I'll show you a couple of ways you can get around having multiples of the same prop without having any real big issues. And you don't have to overpopulate your sequencing area as a result. All right, so let's get started. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to think about when you are talking about a submodel. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to expand the showstopper spinner. And I'm going to start just with the very first submodel there, the cascading arches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a single strand effect. I'm going to drag it down there. And I'm going to put it on there. And I'm going to use white and red. I'll make it a fuchsia. How's that? Make it white and fuchsia so that we can see what's going on. And I've got right now the number of chases set to 1, chase size 10, cycles 1. Okay, left to right. This is basically the default that you get. As far as the render style is, right now it's set to default. I'm going to change that to single line. All right, so now we should be able to see something with that. Let me get that centered for you a little better. Okay, and you can see there what the prop is doing. It's going out, cascading down, out, cascading down. And I am going to slow that down a little bit. Change that to 0.5 so you can watch it a little better. Ooh, it does not like me. There you go. See how it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you, you see there when it makes that, gets to that second one, you see right there where there's some dropouts of the pixels. All right, what causes that is the way that X-Lights does the submodels. And what happens is we get pixel dropout. About, I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but it was about a year ago, maybe a little longer, where the developers went in and they fixed that. And I'm going to show you the adjustments that you have to make that go away. All right, in the effect dialog, there's a checkbox called Group All Strands. All right, so we're going to click that, and then we're going to change it from single line to default. Leave it at default. And now, all right, you see that? The dropouts are no longer occurring. All right, so that is the way that we get around that problem with dropouts when you have pixels that are in more than one of the arms of a submodel. You'll group all the strands, and you will change the render style to default. You can still change the number of chases. In other words, if I wanted to do, let's go with 6 on this one. If I wanted to do 6, go ahead and put that up, and we can start it. And you can see it's doing all 6 of them at the same time. All right, so that's a handy little thing to know. If you're doing something and the prop doesn't look right, you'll need to make that slight adjustment to the settings for the single strand effect. Again, group all strands, and then change it to the default. There's one other change you might have to make, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that. There are some submodels, and I have them marked with a V, for example. There are some submodels that have been rotated. And so what will happen when you put that on one of those props, okay, it doesn't give you the shape that we had before. It looks like just some blinking lights here or there. But when those submodels have been rotated like that and have that V designation, on the transformation, you have to rotate them back. And you can do it either clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't matter. But if you rotate it counterclockwise, like that, now you see the prop now you see what you would get. That's how it's supposed to look. And again, I'll show you what it looked like when it wasn't rotated. Okay, it looked like just an accident, right? All right, so just a couple of things to be aware of when you are sequencing or even mapping. Just knowing what's going on, it'll help you quite a bit on doing that. All right, so yeah, let's go out and create some submodels. All right, so when I do the first submodel, what I'm looking for is, remember, shape and motion. And the easiest way to see that is to reduce the number of chases down to 1. And just follow it. Okay, you can see there, what we're getting, line up the center, then down the sides, down sides. So it's a cascading arch is basically what we've got. All right, so we're going to recreate that on really what's a dissimilar prop. Let me come over here, and we'll start with the Grand Illusion, and I'm going to go down to the submodels. And I'm just going to add a submodel, and I'm going to name it the same. 01 cascading arch. And then I'm going to come down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the side where you see the model here, this big depiction of the model. And I'm going to start grabbing pixels. Now what I'll do is I'll take my cursor, I put it above and to the left of the pixel, hold down the left key, and drag it across. The order that you select the pixels is important. And the reason why it's important is because when you put a single line effect on it, that is the order that X lights will turn on those pixels. So we're going from the center to the outer side. Now what we've got to do is we're going to create our arches. And typically what I will do is I will go left, right. So I'm going to go left, right, left, right. Now I'm going to start arching a little bit. I'm going to go down one, do that again, left, right. And here I'm going to start skipping 2 rows or to come down a little bit. So I'm going to come down here and skip that again. Again, 2 rows down. And 1, 2, do it right there. All right, so I have recreated the shape and the movement when it was not immediately apparent that it was there. Now, it used to be you would have to go back in and do that however many times you wanted to create those arches. Here's kind of a limiter, something that you need to be aware of. I'm going to tell this okay, and we're going to come back into it here in a minute. But I want to show you something that's important. When we go over to the sequencer and we're talking the single line effect, if you look over here, the number of chases, the maximum number of chases that you can put on at a time is 20. That 20 becomes significant when we're over here designing submodels, because if you get above 20 on the base number, let me get back in here and I'll show you what I mean. All right, I'm going to right click. I'm going to click on where it says bottom. I'm going to right click. And there's a whole bunch of tools that you can use on submodels. But the one we're interested in is the symmetrize rotational. So we're going to come down and we're going to select that. And the degrees of symmetry, we get to modify that number. That's the number of arms, if you will, that we're going to have in this submodel. It defaults to 8. I'm going to select 10 and tell it OK. And what X-Lights does for you is it will populate a submodel, cascading arch submodel, that now has those 10 arms. So the base that I'm using on this is a base 10. On the Showstopper spinner, it's a base 12. So I'm going to tell it okay on that, and I'm going to save it. Let's go back over to the sequencer. I'm going to take what I've got on the 1, and remember that one is a base 12, so I'm going to up it to 6 on that one. Shrink that down, and then I'm going to go to the Grand Illusion. We'll go all the way down to the bottom of all the submodels. And I'm going to take what we just put on that, and I'm going to put it on the cascading arch. Now, because that one was a base 10, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reduce that to a 5 because I had the base 12 and I was using half of it. So I'm going to reduce it down to 5. Okay, let's take... Okay, so we've created the submodel, and it's given us another option. Looking at it, if I had to do it again, I might go in and I might extend, the arches to where they go down. But overall, it's probably a pretty solid submodel that we can use. Okay, I'm going to shrink that down. Again, come back over here. And let me take that one up to 10. And then we'll go back up to the spinner. And we'll take that one to 12. And we'll see what we get. All right. If I were to adjust that to the way I like it, I would probably reduce the chase size on both of them a little bit. What I found works really well with the Showstopper spinner is setting the chase size to about 4. Gives you nice separation. I'll do the same thing here. Put it at 4. Now let's take a look at what we've got. All right. So now we have created a submodel that we can use for anything that is sequenced to the 0-1 submodel on the Showstopper spinner. Like I said, when you give a little separation between the pixels, it doesn't get as busy inside the prop. And, like Bob Ross used to say, you have to have dark to show the light. And so by reducing the chase size, we give a little bit more space. By giving a little bit more space, we can get a little more distinct looking prop. Now, here's something I want to show you that I think is neat and cool at the same time. Oops. Shrink this down just a little. Maybe. Lost my stuff. There it is. Okay, if we are on a prop. Let me get up here to the showstopper spinner because I'm more familiar with that one, what it'll do for us. Maybe. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, I'm going to select that effect. Okay. Now watch what happens to the spinner. That's the one on the left when I start playing with the number of chases. All right, that's at 11, 9, 8. Okay, 6, we get a pretty good one. 5 is kind of crazy. Okay, 12 gives us that nice popping. But we could go above and see that looks pretty nice at 18 chases. And let me see what I do if I reduce the number of the chase size to half of what it is. So 18 starts looking pretty interesting. 19, 20, no. 14. Okay, that's something that you could use possibly for a highlight. The point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, when you're using the single line effect like that, you can get different looks. You can make your prop look different by changing the number of chases. All right, so we created that submodel for the GE Grand Illusion. Let's go into the Mesmerizer, and we're going to create a submodel. Let's add one. And we are going to, add it up here. Get us the cascading arch. And again, I'm not going to start in the exact center. Now, what happens if you accidentally select a pixel that you don't want? Like this one right here. If you will hold down the shift key and go over it again, it'll disappear when you drag it across. So remember, just the shift key will take care of that for you. Okay, so the way this model's laid out, it looks a little different, not quite as round. One of the things you might be able to do is go back in and eliminate this pixel and this pixel by just holding down the shift key. But for our purposes today, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll use that as it is right now. I'll come down, symmetrize it again. And I will use a base 10 and see what we get. Okay, so there were errors. And here it'll tell us it did not match up. So what that tells me is that a base 10 is not going to work on this prop. So let me come in. I'll symmetrize it again. Let me try base 12. We're not going to identify the center node. Okay, so it liked the base 12 on that one. So let's tell it okay. Go back to our sequencer. Select that. Go all the way down to the end here. And I'm going to drag in that on the cascading arch. I'm going to take it up to, since it's a base 12, I'll try it at 6 first. Change this one back to 6. And that one we'll change back to 5. So we're looking at all the same thing on all of them. Okay, pretty decent submodels on each of them. All right, so now that I've done that, what I would do, give you some idea, is I would go through and create a submodel analog for every one of the props here. Now, the Grand Illusion, I've already done it, so I'll go in and show you what some of those submodels would look like. So I've got the cascading arches, I've got circles, and if I select the ones, you can kind of see where the circle is. So basically, I went in and created analogs for all of them. Now, you can do that. I know it's a little bit of a lengthy process, but it's something you only have to do once. Now, as I create these submodels, I make them available. I've got a group on Facebook called Showstopper Insights. It's not a sales group. It's strictly, X-Lights and Showstopper props and Showstopper sequences assistance. That's all it is. And you're more than welcome to join that, and all the groupings of these submodels as I create them are available for download. And what you do is just add it to the model that you're using. And, like I said, it's just something available for you that's free as I create them. And if you've got ideas for a prop that you'd like, let me know. I'll show you here. This is actually kind of my hodgepodge. This is where I sit and do this with different types of props. And so I will generate submodels for a variety of props, regardless of who made them. I just enjoy doing the submodels, believe it or not. It's something that, to me, it's kind of it's like a word find puzzle for me. It's kind of entertainment, for lack of a better word. All right, so that's the process that I go through. I'll start and I will just go through every one. Couple of things to point out for you. Again, if I've got, get up here. If I've got in my Showstopper, if I have it as a vertical buffer layout, I make sure that the one that I make for that other prop is also a vertical. That way, if you bring in sequencing that was for the Showstopper spinner, you'll get the proper settings that go with that. All right. Now, another thing I want to show you here, believe it or not, the order of your submodels matters. And the reason why it matters is because stuff that is down here at the bottom, right, will trump things that are up here at the top. So just like the render order for your layout, you'll want your bigger stuff up top and your smaller stuff down at the bottom. Now, I went into the submodels on the spinner and I created areas. If you look at this, just a couple of asterisks, whole spinner. Basically, it's a blank submodel is all it is. And that's how I created my label. So props and submodels 1 through 32 cover the whole spinner. 33 through 45 cover the outer portion. Props 46 through 50 kind of cover the middle area of the prop. And then you have these here that cover the centers. All right, so what that does is you can take, for example, let me get out of here.
Hey, Michael, we do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Mark Collins asked, you can add the showstopper models for a prop in addition to the original submodels from the vendor, correct?
Yes, you can. And what I do, like when I put it out, I don't have the vendors submodels in there. And the reason why is because then you don't have to worry about overwriting something. Like if you've modified their, the default in some way, bringing in these submodels will not affect that. So yeah, you can have as many submodels as you want, which is great.
Okay, that was just a question. That's all.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let me get back into this here. And I'll show you something else that's really very handy. A lot of people didn't know you could do this. Now I've taken some of these and I've broken them out into different groups down here at the bottom. But one of the things that you could do, and people may not realize this, but it's real handy. All right, let me pick one. Let me say, okay, I'm going to go to oysters, right? Let me right-click on oysters, and I can split it. And when I split it, let's go down here at the bottom, and I'll show you what it just did. It went in, and it took out each individual arms and made them separate arms. The other thing I can do is I can come over here and let me hold down the shift key and select the bottom, and I've got all those selected, and I can join them. All right, so if I wanted to, I would join them, and I'm just going to call this oyster sample. All right, so what that means is you can come over here to either of these props, and let me get into their submodels. And if you decide, I don't want to create groups outside the model itself, I just want to do it with, in the prop itself. You can come over here, you can highlight these, and you can join those. What was that? That was flour. Okay, so you have some tools that allow you to manipulate how the submodels over here on the left are set up. So you can join them, you can split them, you can do whatever you like. What I always tell people, and this is very important, you know, some people advocate, oh, you gotta have groups outside. This is the best way. I can do this in 30 seconds. All sorts of nonsense like that. Here's what I will tell you: the best way to do it is the way that makes sense to you. All right, X-Lights is a wonderful program because it's feature rich and it allows us to do the same thing in more than one way. So what you've got to do is decide, what do you like, and do it the way you like it, the way that makes the most sense to you. So if you prefer to have submodels, 70 submodels or whatever, you prefer to have those submodels and break them out into groups and sequence that way or map that way, absolutely, that's what you should do, because that's what works for you. And that's the most important thing, is to do something that makes sense to you, and not follow someone just because they say to do it. This is the way I like to do it, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. Okay, just remember that. All right, so when you are talking about getting back kind of on my point here, when we talk about submodels, you're going to want your biggest ones at the top. So the ones that do the whole spinner are here, and the ones that do the outer are down here, that sort of thing. And when you're sequencing, let me show you something that's important when you're sequencing. One of the big mistakes that I see people make a lot with the showstopper props is that they will over sequence them. Okay, you don't need to do that. Okay, so I've got let's see where we're at here on this. This is covers the entire prop. Okay, it covers the whole prop itself, the one that's going right now. That's the cascading arches. But let's say I wanted to give it a different look. So I'm going to just Control X this. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put something, let's do an outer swirl. So that's on the outer section. And then I'm going to come in here. Let's put something on the starburst in the center. Okay, it looks like here on the outer swirl, we're getting just the sparkles. So let me go ahead and I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees on the outer swirl. Okay, so now we're getting kind of all right, so we're getting something there. I'm going to take that outer swirl right. I'm going to make it a little bigger, increase that chase size. Okay, so now we got it kind of exploding and then rotating out. Yeah, let me do something maybe in the middle. Okay, so let me take that. Let's see what we get. Okay. All right, we've gotten what I call dishwater. What I mean by that is I don't like the way it looks because it's too much. So let me see if I can get something by moving it down to the short arrows. No, I don't like that. Medium hearts. Nah, I don't like any of that. So I'm going to delete that. So like I said, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people do is they over-sequence the prop. They put too much on it. And, as a result, it just kind of, you lose the patterns. And I think one of the beauties of these props is that we can get different patterns out of them. And so don't over sequence the props. Try to keep it where you just get, one or two in each area when you're sequencing, or one just in the whole area. And then that way you won't get the dishwater that I was talking about. Just looks muddied. All right, so you kind of see the process that I go. Any other questions you might have?
Yeah, there's no other questions right now.
Okay. Well, Bobby, that's all I've got on this. It's pretty straightforward. You just kind of march through. You can pick any source prop. Like I said, I picked mine because I'm the most familiar with it. But if you have a prop that you really like the submodels and you want to duplicate those on other props you have, remember, all you're looking for are the shape and the motion. And the way that you get that is by putting a single strand effect on the source and set the number of chases to 1. And that will give you the shape and the motion. And then you can just duplicate that as best you can. Now, sometimes it's not going to be exact, obviously, but you are approximating that submodel. That's all you need to do is approximate it with the shape and the motion. With that, thank you all very much for your kind attention. And that's all I've got for you.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. We'll be back, I believe, this Sunday as well for another session, as this was a makeup for last Sunday while Michael was traveling back from the Carolina Mini. He was telling me about his, long drive, which
It's only 14 hours.
Yeah, no, thank you. On Fridays, we do have social. Anyone's welcome to come and join us. The link will be put in the Professional Triers Facebook group. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern and goes until the last person's ready for bed. Bring your favorite beverage and just hang out with friends. All right. Well, again, thank you, Michael, for coming here and teaching us about the submodels. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Everyone have a good night. Bye.
Yeah. Good night.
That's it for tonight's lesson in light-based lunacy. Smash that subscribe button, zap a comment below, and share your worst tech fail. We might feature it next class. Until then, stay lit, stay learning, and always bring a backup SD card. Night School dismissed.